Hello and welcome to Who Corner to Corner podcast. My name is Geoff, his name is Paul, and as you can hear in the background, the cloister bell is ringing. And Paul, why does the cloister bell ring in the TARDIS?
I've absolutely no fucking idea, mate. It was your idea.
Well, the cloister bell rings in times of danger, Will Robinson. So, we are gathered here tonight to discuss the news from Tuesday. Was it Tuesday or yesterday? I've lost track of what it seems
earlier
like it
this week.
Earlier this week.
Recent news launched earlier this week.
About the future or non-future of Doctor Who on TV. So, as you are likely all aware, it's all a bit of a mess, and currently the Christmas special that was planned has been cancelled. Russell T Davies has claimed that he'd never written anything for it, which appears to contradict statements in Doctor Who magazine.
That he made saying, yes, we've written it and it'll be out.
Yeah, and it features these words.
I remember him like saying that, but have you got that, have you?
It's somewhere, yeah.
No.
And the show is not going to have a Christmas special. It's not coming back anytime soon, and is being put out to tender. Do we need a crying one? I've got quite a lot of thoughts on this. So we've had quite a lot of comments and audio clips in from people with their thoughts, which has been great. So I haven't listened to them yet, so I'm looking forward to hearing those in a bit. But let's start with you, Paul. How are you feeling?
What, about the whole thing?
Yeah.
I think it's fine. The only thing I'm really disappointed about is that we're not going to get a Christmas special, because I don't care if it might have been an absolute train wreck or a car crash or whatever. But it might not have been. It's in a quantum state. It could have been this, it could have been that. As it happens, it's now not going to be anything. So, okay, that's disappointing. We're not going to get any new Doctor Who on TV this year. I think also, as you said, it's going to be a few years anyway. But I was kind of prepared for that, because it was always going to be a few years. We don't have another streaming partner or whatever it is. So that was always on the cards. That was always part of the future. Again, it's all that kind of quantum flux thing. I think the whole idea then of actually bringing that process forward now, putting it out to tender, or maybe they were doing it anyway and are now just kind of announced it. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I don't think it's the end of Doctor Who. I actually think it's the start of a bright new future, and that you're taking completely the wrong spin on it. That's my thoughts.
Well, that's surprisingly positive.
Well, it is, because I'm a positive kind of guy, Geoff. That's, this. We've been doing this for so many years now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I am, generally a positive person as well, but I can't see anything really good in this news.
So, well, we could do the kind of for and against for it then, in that case. And that's going to be fine. So assuming you're going to take the kind of bleak outlook on it. So what is that outlook?
Yeah, well, I'd say I was quite surprised to have that sort of view on it. But, I mean, let's be honest, the whole thing has just been absolute bullshit. And, I think, it's admirable to put a positive spin on it, I think. But I think, looking at this realistically, I think it's really disappointing. I don't think it's entirely unexpected. I think we, the fans, have been lied to. I don't think that there was. I think there was a plan for a Christmas special.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Or perhaps there wasn't, and like Russell said, it was cooked up in an attempt to, make there be a future of the show or something.
Or get some PR headlines and all of that kind of thing, perhaps.
Yeah, maybe. But
Which is a bit of a cheap trick when you think about it. But
well, it is.
It's not beyond the realms of possibility that was the reason behind saying these things.
And I sort of think, they would have commissioned it, for definite, and they would have had a plan in place if it was going to happen. When they said Russell has agreed to come back and write the Christmas special after Shooty left, I kind of thought that's sort of weird wording. It's sort of like it's all done, but he's going to give one last sort of favour, but obviously we're not involved in it all, so who knows.
Who knows? Who knows?
But I think that I just think the whole thing has been handled really badly, and I think that you're right. Even if we had the Christmas special and they cast a new Doctor and they go into production, the earliest we probably would have got anything was kind of autumn next year.
Oh my gosh. Out of push, yeah.
Out of push, yeah. Well, I mean, TV seems to take an extremely long time to make these days for some reason, but but I think putting the show out to tender, and I know that BBC have done this on Casualty and things, it's a perfectly viable thing to do.
Absolutely.
For it, to
yeah.
find a partner.
It means that we won't get any more Bad Wolf episodes.
Well, it does.
We might not get any more Russell T Davies episodes. I mean, if you're a fan of Russell T Davies, then that's probably a sad thing. But if you're not, then obviously it doesn't really make any difference. Or we might get one episode written by Russell now and then, which is actually really, really good, because then he doesn't have to write a whole 2 series of stuff just to try and get the scripts in.
I think we'll come back to all of that. I think he should not be let near it again. I think I've got so many thoughts.
He's done his time.
Is the great irony, the huge irony of the man who's brought the show back in spectacular fashion and gave us, brilliant seasons of the show and ensured it ran for many years, comes back in a blaze of glory and then absolutely
kills it,
flops at it.
But for many people, that's not the case, though. There's a lot of people who really enjoyed the last couple of series, and you have to take that into consideration.
Yes, but
we're not saying that all of this just because you and I didn't like it, and maybe a whole bunch of other people in the same echo chambers as us. That doesn't mean the whole thing was necessarily a whole bunch of crap.
No, that's
that people
true.
didn't enjoy it, rather.
And of course there's people who enjoyed it. I think the general perception of the show in the public eye is that it hasn't been very good for a while. Whether that's right or wrong, they haven't watched it, but that's the problem. They haven't watched it, have they? So the fact that they're not tuning in is a major issue. I think that with the tender thing, I mean, I hope to be surprised, but I highly doubt anyone would want to take it on at the moment, or in the sort of near future. Bearing in mind,
seriously, I know you said this on Twitter, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't think anyone in their right mind would take it now.
I think that's absolutely incorrect. I wouldn't be surprised if people are bashing the doors down.
The show is perceived in the wider audience as not what it was. Nobody watches it. It's not that popular anymore. And I think within the fandom, I think, it's a very toxic place, as are all of them, or many of them, as we talked about recently.
Yes.
I can't see that anyone would want to take it on with the attempt to salvage it when it is seen as it is right now. I think it'd be a really, you've got to be real ballsy to do that. Yeah. But I think that, maybe in time, yes, I think people will go for it, but I don't think it will happen right now. I might be wrong. There might be something secretly going on right now for all we know. But they put it out for tender. That's I don't know, 6 months to a year before anything happens on that. Then a year of pre-production. I think we're looking at minimum 3 years before anything.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, if not longer. So, whilst right now, I think, as a general brand, a thing, the show is dead. For fans, we've got Big Finish, we've got the books and all of that, but you're buying that if you're a fan. Do you know what I mean? The general audience.
Yeah.
They're not doing that. So I think it's awful the way it's ended at the moment. I think it's really disappointing. Is it the BBC's fault? Is it Russell's fault? I don't know. Probably a bit of everything, really. I think it could all have been handled better. I think, there should have been a commitment to get Disney on for 3 seasons and make Shooty stay. I think they should have had a better plan for what they, the regeneration thing, and perhaps leave it open-ended so that they weren't then, tied into trying to say something with Billy. It doesn't matter anymore. I'm so disappointed by so much of it.
Can I answer a few of those things?
Yeah.
Right, okay, right. So I appreciate all that, and that you're feeling sad, and I have a thing called empathy, I believe it's called, which apparently that's a thing that people feel. Okay, firstly, that whole thing about towards the end of the show and people not watching it anymore and it's not as good as it's been and all of that kind of thing. We've been here before many, many times. Doctor Who has been in that place where the public have always sort of said, well, it's not what it was when I was a kid, or it's not what it was a couple of years ago, or it's not as good as it used to be, or I don't like the new Doctor, or whatever it is, any of that kind of, that's been going on right since the end of William Hartnell's era. It's always been going on, and I don't watch it anymore since Doctor Who changed and is this new person and all that. We've been there so many times. It kind of reached a point in the mid-80s when John Nathan Turner sort of took it on. I remember my dad saying it's not what it used to be when I started really getting into it, when I was watching Warriors Gate and Legopolis and being absolutely astonished and amazed and deciding that this is the programme that I'm now really going to be a fan of. My dad sat there saying it's not what it was, and all the news stories saying Doctor Who's changed for the worst and all of this, and they've updated the music, and why would they do that, and blah 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 blah. The Doctor's too young now. We got Peter Davison. He's a vet, for crying out loud. I'm not watching it anymore. I refuse to watch any more Doctor Who. It died with Tom Baker. It died with John Pertwee. It died with William Hartnell. Those were the good old days. We've been there many, many times, and Doctor Who has survived it. Yes, it might have gone away for a bit and kind of refreshed, and maybe the people behind the scenes have a think about, okay, so that era of it has kind of expired in a way. It's no longer relevant, possibly. It's no longer hitting the general audience. At the end of Sylvester McCoy's run, he had a huge amount of flack against him being the Doctor. It was horrific. It was horrific from fans. There were voices kind of literally out there writing stuff in fanzines, campaigning to get rid of him. Fans campaigning to get rid of an actor playing the Doctor. Think about that for a second.
Yeah, well,
that's what Sylvester McCoy had to go through. If that was, and that was before we had online kind of forums and things. If Twitter had been around back then, can you imagine what that would have looked like to any producer, to any actor, anybody sort of looking onto it?
Note, we don't have to imagine, because we've seen it with Jodie.
Exactly. We're back there again. That's the whole point I'm saying. We're right there again. So that brings me on to this whole thing about toxic fandom. There are always going to be toxic elements in the fandom. The difference now is that they got a much bigger platform to make their voices heard. Now, in no way in the 80s did those toxic fan voices represent the majority of fans who just got on and watched Doctor Who, watched Sylvester McCoy or Peter Davison or whatever, and really enjoyed what they were watching. They didn't listen to all the people, all their dads and mums or whatever, saying, oh, it's not as good as it was in my day. They just sat down and watched the show that they enjoyed. If it's different or not as good, inverted commas, as what it was when somebody else watched it, well, that doesn't matter. It's what I want to watch right now. This is it. And suddenly it's not there anymore. That in itself is a real disappointment. I don't imagine for a second that Doctor Who has expired because of the toxic fandom. And I know that's not what you're saying, but it's expired because it's kind of reached a point where it can't continue in its current form. It needs to regenerate. It needs to reform. And nowhere has that been made more clear than actually with Russell T Davies coming back on and in some way trying to push it forward, but by reverting to a really old template. That proves the point in a way that Doctor Who needs to constantly evolve in the way that we've always said. And you're right, I absolutely agree that it is ironic that the guy who is responsible for its evolution and rebirth in the 20th century is kind of failed in his last kind of attempt to write for the show, at least in our eyes. Lots of fans out there, I'm sure, love Space Babies and the Pooh Monster and everything else. And, don't forget, there have been some really decent stories in the last, couple of series. Yeah. There's some little gems in there. Now, maybe for me and you, they're few and far between. But for somebody new watching who this really resonates with, actually, they're pretty good. And it's all that good. So it's a shame for them, I think, the fact we have to wait. But in some ways, I think we were always going to have to wait anyway, even if Bad Wolf were going to continue with it. I'm really pleased that whenever Doctor Who comes back, it's going to be different, it's going to be refreshed, it's going to appeal to a different audience perhaps than it does now, it's going to be written differently, it's going to look differently, and for me, those new differences, what's Doctor Who going to look like when it comes back, that's always, for me, the most exciting thing when I'm watching Doctor Who. Almost as exciting as actually watching it itself. I love those change points, because that for me is the whole DNA of the show. It changes constantly. It's always rebooting. We said on this podcast years ago, the day Doctor Who fails to regenerate is the day that it dies. And that's kind of what's been proved by by what happened with Russell T Davies coming back on, trying to wind the clock back, but simultaneously trying to wind it forward. He broke the springs. That's a good metaphor, that, isn't it? It's a good one.
Yeah. Well,
do you not agree? Silence. Head scratching.
I don't really know what to say. It feels like a very different pair of thoughts on things here.
Yeah, but that's fine. That's what happens when you get two people with different opinions on it in a room, and it goes to show, I think, that there is no. The only facts in this are whatever happened behind the scenes at the BBC and Bad Wolf and whatever partners were invested in it. We're not going to know that, really. We're not going to truly know what's happened until at some point in the future somebody writes a big expose book about it, or it all comes out in the wash. So, and to be fair, I don't really care that much about all that stuff. That's corporate shenanigans. It's going to happen. But now, look, we've got a lot of people who could potentially step forward and pick up Doctor Who, and there's a lot of talented people out there. I was looking on Twitter or Blue Sky, whichever one it was, and I was seeing stuff from J. Michael Straczynski. That would be awesome if he picked it up. There's a lot of independent, production companies that, again, have probably got people writing for them who grew up on Doctor Who, who loved it. Jonathan Wilkins mentioned, maybe Kudos or somebody like that could pick it, the guys who did Spooks and various other things. That would be amazing. Maybe it could be a UK company, maybe it could be a foreign company, who knows? I don't know. But I'll tell you what, if I had a TV production company right now, I'd be straight in there at that door, knocking on with my little document for their tender, because I would love to pick it up. Toxic fandom or not, there's always going to be there. So forget about the fandom. We're not writing for the toxic fandom. We're not writing for them. Don't care about them. We're writing for the people who are going to be watching it when it comes on. If people aren't going to watch it, fine. If people are going to kick off about it, fine. But let's write the show that we want to write, that we want to produce, and let's put it out there. And Doctor Who, regardless of what you think, is a brand. It might not be at its best right now. It might need a bit of a spit, shine and polish, but it's still there. It's still got a lot of history to it. It's still got a lot of love out there and affection, even if it's not for the current. Maybe it's something, Doctor Who has touched all fans, even the ones with toxic opinions, if you like, even the ones that are full of negativity and can't see the good for the bad. It's touched all of them. They all love it in some way. We do. So why is it, it's putting it out to tender is not saying we're killing it. It's saying we want someone with new ideas, with a fresh take on it, to come and give us their best pitch. That's what it says.
So I've got a comment here from Thomas Chapman, who's in one of the chat groups that I'm in. He says, I'm incredibly let down by the announcement by people whose job it is to make sure the show should have been left in the best positive condition before a small break. Incredibly annoyed for an actor like Billy, whose face has been dragged into this by Russell. For him to then jump ship in such a way has stained his legacy in my eyes. So I've seen quite a few people sort of, expressing similar thoughts. What do you think about the Billy thing? I mean, I think, like I think we said before, she came in literally for a favour, for a hoot on it. But it sort of, left it in a bit of a, it's a strange end for it as it currently stands.
It is. I'm not going to disagree with that.
Yeah. So, whatever they do is some years away yet. But I don't think that the show should carry on this continuity. I think, it should, like I sort of proposed a little while ago, not that I'm going to tender for it, but, the whole thing of Doctor Who, but not having, 16 Doctors previous and all of that, and trying to explain the Billy thing. Do you know what I mean? When it comes time to get a new audience into it, it needs to start afresh. And I think it needs to be done differently to the way it was in 2005 as well, because it's eventually gets too bogged down in stuff. Start it anew, I think, but with the same sort, the same creatures, that sort of thing, but just
Doctor, TARDIS, Dardy-Dark kind of thing.
All of the core things, but
kind of Rose was a bit like that in a way, wasn't it? It didn't bring any baggage with it. I think that's one of the reasons why that story was so successful.
It worked, and it still had a nod to, long-time fans of the Autons and stuff, and then they threaded things in throughout. And it did work brilliantly, but I think, doing it again, we need to, not be beholden to that, to have the Daleks turn up and the Doctor go, oh, I've met them 4 billion times before. It needs to be, it would be so fresh and exciting to present them as new, I
know since when you mentioned that first time, I didn't necessarily agree with it. I thought that was probably not a good idea, but since that I kind of thought about it, and I don't think it's a bad idea, because I think Doctor Who can kind of take the weight of that. You can strip everything out of it and tell a brand new story. All it needs really is just those essentials. The Doctor, as long as the Doctor is still the Doctor and stands for what the Doctor stands for, because that is, aside from anything else, I think the most critical part of it. If the Doctor comes back and someone, I don't know, dressed up like Sylvester Stallone in Rambo or something like that, which, it's not exactly. It's just standard random action hero kind of, sign of the times kind of thing. So
you've got to keep the character the way it is.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. And I think the BBC will kind of steward that, if you like. I think they're quite protective in a way, the property. And calling Doctor Who a property, that's terrible, isn't it? But they'll want to, like when they had the TV movie in '96, they were quite heavily involved, for better or worse, in the whole kind of sort of setup and discussion around what the elements of that show, how they could stay true to what Doctor Who had always been, or what the core of Doctor Who was. And I think maybe somewhere along the line, somebody thought it'd be a great idea to kind of do a sort of 2-minute intro or 30-second intro explaining the Doctor, the Master, the number of lives, the regeneration, the Daleks, throwing all that stuff in and just confusing the hell of the hell out of the audience before the credits had even rolled. It's crazy, isn't it? So that was kind of a mistake, and Rose got it right, I think, by just ignoring all that stuff, just presenting the Doctor through the eyes of Rose as a hero for the new generation.
Yeah, and that worked brilliantly, And
that's all we need to do again, really, And when you think about it, I think, like I might have said before, it took us quite a few years before we started really seeing Time Lords and everything else. Okay, we had Daleks.
And you can build all that in, but it needs to be done, in my view, afresh, You're right. The TV movie sort of made that bit of a mistake by starting with the Seventh Doctor and ending his story, which was great for fans, but, for a new viewer who'd seen that advertised and thought, oh, well, what's this? Have a look at this.
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on?
Or maybe just not care so much,
Well, yeah, maybe, yeah. So we've had quite a few comments and things in from people, so I'm just going to go over to Blue Sky. So Ian Banks said, hold on. His Instagram, RTD's Instagram post was a classic lesson in how not to read a room. The way he just emits a line to the audience about the state of the show, quote unquote, because showbiz is an amazingly tone-deaf comment for someone in his position to make. It makes me wonder if he actually listens to people who constantly say they are fed up with the longer wait between seasons and the shrinking episode numbers. This isn't a problem unique to Who, though. which is true. Most of us are unaware of how tenders work. So this just feels like another case of the wilderness years settling in, except without a producer who's trying to keep the show going. I can deal with the show resting. I'm fuming about RTD not giving a shit though. Yeah, I mean, I thought that RTD's thing was really poorly done. I think I don't like the situation at the moment, and yes, I played the cloister bell and all of that, and it obviously annoyed you. I think right now the show is dead. I think that's we can't look at it any other way, but they want to put it out for tender, and hopefully someone will pick it up. I think it will be a while before that happens, because as I was trying to say, I think the public perception of it, I think there's a toxic fandom. I've seen some awful stuff out there today. I think this with every fandom, really. You've got to be quite mad and brave to want to go into something that everything you do is going to be resulting in a load of grief. And is it worth it? Is it really worth it? But I think whatever happens, it's a few years away before we get anything more. I think it will come back. It's just I'm just disappointed the way it's all gone, really. It's gone out with a whimper, really. And it's sort of it's probably hit me harder than I thought, really. It's really kind of knocked it all for it. I think it has for other people as well. So why don't you play a couple of the voice notes? We've had quite a few here. I don't know who you've got there, so just cue them up as you've got them.
Let's hear from Raina. See what Raina has to say.
Hello, my name is Raina, and I'm an avid listener of your podcast.
Hey.
I will just say I am disappointed, and not in the announcement of the show basically ending, if we can call it that, but it's just the endless lying and gaslighting from not only R2D, but from the BBC and Bad Wolf in regards to this whole entire era, not just a Christmas special. And I think we all knew the rumors of this special either not happening or was never going to happen to begin with. And Russell basically admitted that in his Instagram post. That was kind of sad and hard to hear. And it's just so frustrating. I feel like a lot of the negativity and the frustration would be leveled out by now if this whole entire team, Bad Wolf, BBC, and R2D, were just honest with the situation of the show and where it was at, and we could just all be cooler heads and just wait for, I guess, the next couple of years when someone else takes over. I just love honesty over everything. So thank you for having me. Bye.
Hey, Raina, thank you for that.
Raina. Yeah.
Kind of matches what you were saying, I think, Geoff.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people feel that, RTD is, the hype man and all of that, but it reaches a point when you start to believe your own hype and you just start spouting stuff off.
Is it a case of hubris, gaslighting? Well, I think, as Raina mentioned there.
I think the guy's arrogance is off the chart at the moment, and believing his own legend, and no one's telling him no, which is what I
think there's something to be said for that, for sure.
Why we've ended up with some of what we have, and I sort of mention it, but I thought the Instagram post was really poor.
Do you think he'd have been better off saying nothing at that point?
No, I think he had to say something, but I don't know. It's difficult because
it's kind of like leaving with a big sort of V.
Well, yeah, a little bit.
Screw you, kind of thing. I'm out.
He can't go and sort of.
I've shut on your doorstep, and now I'm off. Bye. What a hoot.
He can't go and sort of apologise, or because professionally that looks really bad. He can't sort of say, yeah, I kind of balls it up here. But I just the tone of it, and like I said, it was almost a sort of verbal version of I'm going to get out before the door hits me, and I think he must know. They
trying
must
to control the narrative, do you
think? They must know what people's kind of perceptions and feelings are of things. So yeah, I get it with what Raina's saying there. They should have had a better plan in place here. I can't understand why the BBC thinks it wasn't a 3-year deal, or why it wasn't, if they said we've got 2 years, why they didn't just say, right, shoot it, it's 2 years, and we'll have you regenerate with the intention that there'll be we might get another year or two out of it. Do you know what I mean? It's like when on US TV shows, or actually no, it was in Doctor Who in the past.
Yeah.
Oh, well, the 50th is coming up, but Matt Smith doesn't have a contract for it. We may not have a doctor in the episode. Like, how does this stuff happen? How do we not have better plans in place and commitments to making sure things are going to work? So yeah,
Interesting.
All of that's a bit of a mess.
It's funny actually. I mean, I don't feel. I don't feel any of that at all. I mean,
well, it's clear your feelings about it are very different to many others.
I'm very sort of, in a way, it's like and I know this might sound horrible, but I really don't care about any of the backroom stuff.
Well, yeah,
I agree. I think Rainer's point.
No,
well, I don't. I think. I think Rainer's point about the BBC gaslighting fans and things like that, I think there's some validity to that, and I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong at all, because you clearly feel it, and I get it, but I don't feel any of that. Not really. And yeah, sure, I'm disappointed there's not going to be any Doctor Who, but I'm glad it's not going to be a car crash, which is what the Christmas episode was probably going to be, if we're really honest. But I'm just looking forward to whatever. I generally am looking forward to whatever it's going to look like with whoever picks it up.
Well, that's brilliant.
And I don't think when you do take on a thing like that, obviously you have to sort of, because it's such a big part of all sorts of things now, is the weight of the voices on social media. But I think if you're big enough, you can ignore them. Well, you can do two things. You can ignore them, which is probably a bad thing to do, actually, in a way. Or you can try and, well, actually, but there's plus and minus of both of them. Or you can try and be one of them. Sure, I made the point about J. Michael Straczynski sort of potentially picking up, and people have been banging on his door, fans. He gets very engaged with the fandom across all the different things that he's written for and contributed towards, comics, TV shows, obviously, and he carries with him a lot of kudos because of the sheer brilliance of Babylon 5 and how he got that finish despite having all the odds stacked against him and massive cancellations. The fact that he managed to mostly tell the story that he always wanted to tell through that show and got it finished in the end. So, and there's a massive amount of fans at Babylon 5, and I don't think there's any really who kind of hate JMS or any Babylon 5 thing. That's one fandom that I haven't seen any toxicity in at all. It's not a very divisive show. Fans love it, or you don't love it. If you don't love it, you don't watch it. It's as simple as that. You don't get it, you don't watch it. If you do get it, you watch it, you love it. That's the sort of thing. And I kind of wish Doctor Who could have that. Blake 7 is quite similar as well. Star Trek again is very divisive. I don't know really why that is. It's something to sort of look at perhaps, but it's but I think so as a showrunner, you either join the fandom or you leave it alone. I think that it's got to be one of those. Join it, get people on your side, get them to love you and everything else. But then, of course, as soon as you put two fingers up at them, they will crucify you. And then, you're hoist by your own petard. Or you ignore them. That's dangerous as well. Because, why are they ignoring me? Don't they care about the fans? Don't they care what we think, what we have to say about this thing, Surely the fans' voice means something. So it's a difficult one. I think whoever comes on has to be very good with knowing how to deal with fandom on social media. Perhaps. Yeah. Which maybe ties into your point about why would anybody want to pick it up. But, this is why we have publicity departments, or why corporations have publicity departments. People go to university to kind of study this stuff and know it and bring it into a company so that a company's brand doesn't suffer in any way, or they have the narrative, they put it out there, they take the lead on things in the right way, they know how to engage their fandoms, they know how to bring in audiences. That's what marketing and PR departments really ought to be doing, as much for TV shows as they do for selling toilet roll or something. They really need, that's the area, I think. But that's not a thing for the writer to get involved in, or the producer. That's a thing purely for the PR department to get into, to manage. That's my take on it anyway. Right, we've got a few more voice notes, so let's crack on through these. Here's William, our regular contributor. Hello, William.
Hello, just thought I'd send in a voice note after the news that the Doctor Who Christmas special is cancelled and the show is now in tender, which I believe basically means they're looking for another studio to take it on because Bad Wolf have gone, Russell T Davies is gone. Yeah, quite shocked about the news. I did think the Christmas special will go ahead, just to tie up a few loose ends. So I guess Billy Piper isn't the Doctor, and I'm guessing that's it for the show now for a while. 2028, maybe 2029 at the earliest. So yeah, it's quite shocking news. But I've got the Big Finish audio dramas to listen to, and I guess that'll be the only Doctor Who we get for a while. But hopefully 2028, 2029 full series. Hopefully Shooter Gatwick will come back because I've grown to like him as well. Hopefully they can find a way to bring him back. But yeah, quite sad at the moment. But we move on. It's the 90s again. It's the Wilderness Years too.
I think, I think I'm kind of feeling that as well. Although, was it Ian Banks who said without a producer to kind of take it and guide it through those years? He's absolutely right. J&T was on hand throughout all of those gap years, to kind of make sure Doctor Who remained current, even if only in a small presence, really. But it was absolutely there.
Yeah,
I'm just Googling because am I correct in thinking the Store in the Engine was put forward for a Hugo Award?
Don't know.
Hugo Award, something like that. I'm sure it did. What does it say? Yes. Oh, there you go. It received the prestigious Hugo Award nomination in the Best Dramatic Presentation for Short Form category. This is one of the gems that I thought was present in the previous series. I think it's things like that. Potentially, what was it? Boom. I think it was a good one. The one where the well. That was fun. Stuff like that. I think there is some good stuff in there somewhere. Maybe it's not as much of it, but. And that one's been recognised by the community as being something worthy of an award. So that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, there was some good stuff in there. I'm annoyed actually. I haven't really expressed how I feel about it all.
While you're thinking of it, let's hear from Lee. We got a couple of voice notes from Lee, our good friend Lee, who also seems to have a regular slot on this show, but that's great because we want that. So let's play both of these. Here's the first one. I don't know if they're connected or run on from one to the other. Let's find out.
Hey, Paul. First, I want to say thank you to Russell T Davies for stepping in and continuing Doctor Who. My understanding is if there was no one willing to pick up Doctor Who after Chibnall, it would have ended there. Much in the way that Stephen Moffat added an extra season and a special to give Chibnall time to pick it up. Also, I don't know that there was enough thought about what it means for Doctor Who to be successful in that partnership and with those 8 episodes. I also wonder who was in the writing and production room. Were there people who going, why does that make sense? Where are you going with that? How does this close the loop? Basic questions like that are terribly important. And the stories make me think that work wasn't being done. I do hope that if there is going to be another partnership, it's hopefully someone like Apple Plus, who I think is better at giving shows room to breathe and grow and giving the talent the space to make things happen. And I hope they think about what it means to give other people a chance to play Doctor. Because when you take up someone like Nshuti or any other person who is not a white male, you have to think about what that looks like and what that work is so that it can be successful. And it can be.
100%. Let's listen to Lee's second part, and then we'll discuss.
Hey, guys, I hope you don't mind that I continue this a little bit, but I thought there was a little more to add to this. And one of the things is I think it was a big mistake to abandon the formula of having the Doctor and the new companion have a story in the present, past, and future that basically takes place almost over 3 consecutive days. Those first 3 days are the doctor and companion building a connection and a relationship and allowing us, the viewer, to do that. I felt that was greatly missing in the first season with Ruby. I think that matters a lot, especially when there are only 8 episodes, which I thought were just too short anyway. The other thing is, when I was talking about who is in the room with Russell or any other writer, I think that if one would go listen to Jemana's guest on A Hamster with a Blunt Penknife, specifically her on the tops and bottoms, her bottoms of the new Doctor Who, there are some really good observations about Russell T Davies' run. And I can imagine if someone like her were in the room, it would have caused him to generate better stories. Not her story, but his stories, to encourage them to be greater. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Oh, some really good points there, Geoff. What do you reckon?
I think Lee's right. Well, first of all, that's nice that he said, thank you to RTD for, coming back to the show after Chris Chibnall. I mean, we could have gone out on a real high, but it's really interesting that nobody else wanted to take it on after Chris, and so Russell came back to sort of ensure its longevity and everything. So that goes back to my point now of I don't know who'd want to take on. If they didn't want it then, why are they going to want it now? But I stand to
was it documented that nobody wanted it after Chris?
Yeah. Russell came back.
So nobody at all, nobody ever said we're not going to touch Doctor Who.
The understanding is that Russell came back because if he didn't, it was going to finish at that point. So of course, it could all be hype from him. Who knows? But
it could be a way of getting Russell back into it, because they thought that would appease fans and give them the kudos they needed to attract people like Disney and Sony, perhaps.
Maybe. Who knows? There's a lot of things to discuss in it. But I agree with Lee. I said earlier, I don't think anyone tells Russell no. And
I think that's a massive problem. Yeah, totally agree.
And that's why you can't kick off a new show, a new era with bogey monsters. I know Church on Ruby Road came before it, but that wasn't kind of promoted globally as the start of the shooty era, and it just it wasn't a good episode. It was really like just too silly, and I know the Slitheen are silly and stuff, but just things have to be a little bit different these days, I think. And
the Slitheen episode was kind of buried a few, what was it, like third or fourth episode, story 3 and 4, I think. So but, I think it was the first. Yeah, go on.
You had burping bins in Rose, and that was funny, but the
maybe that was a sign of things to come in a way.
Well, or I don't know. It just
maybe we should have looked at that as a bit of foreshadowing and think, oh right, okay, we're going to go down that direction.
If Lee's right though, no one's telling him no, because they all oh, he's a genius. He's a genius.
How can we question the great Russell's writing? We don't touch that.
I think he believes that, and he is brilliant, but it's. It just didn't work here, and it's also quite interesting what Lee said there about the present, past, and future structure.
I was going to ask you about that.
Personally, I'm not too fussed on that, but I do think that having your Doctor and companion be able to kind of, build their relationship is really important. And we didn't have Shooty for almost 2 episodes. In his first series, and in 8 episodes, that's just not cutting it. He was barely in 73 yards, and he was confined to a screen in Dot and Bubble. It's it's not great. And again, you know what? Even right back then, that just kind of shows like if the guy wasn't available for it, find someone else. So that
find someone else. Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
And if I've been blunt, you've kind of stopped me from saying the stuff I was going to say, but that's kind of an example of why was nobody saying we got to wait or find someone else, you know. And in 8 episodes, it got hampered by him not being in it.
Yeah.
I don't think you can do a Doctor Light episode in 8 episodes.
No, I
Not that
totally
early
agree.
on in a Doctor's run either.
Yeah.
So-
Not if you want to kind of bed that Doctor down. Get, you know what I mean? Get people to understand where they're coming from, who they are, get them to love them, and all that sort of thing.
And if you're a new viewer and you're still watching at that point, was it 4 or 5 episodes in? You're going to think, well, hold on, where's the lead actor gone? You know, it was poor move, I think, on that point.
And what do you think about Lee's point about if the Doctor is cast as anything other than a white male? We need to understand those stories. I mean, I guess really sort of thinking, well, the story in the engine, actually, there's a story which was written by Inua Ellams, right? So, and it comes from sort of the heartland of African sort of culture. Having somebody like Ncuti with, sort of Nigerian ancestry coming in to be the Doctor, it kind of opens up those doors to tell stories from different cultures that aren't, sort of white centric, I suppose. And maybe more could have been made of that, I guess. I mean, we had Dot and Bubble, which kind of faced racism right on. So for the first time, the Doctor's a black man, and that's going to be something now. Likewise with Jodie, the Doctor's a woman. People are going to look at the Doctor differently within the story.
Yeah, I think. I don't know, maybe when you start, you should have an idea of what you want the Doctor to be like, so that you can then tailor stories around that if you want to. But then, do you just write for the Doctor and then you cast the best person and do you have to tailor it to fit their look?
Or maybe it's not tailoring. No, I think that's the wrong way of looking at it. I think it's more opening doors rather than tailoring, I think.
And I certainly don't think any of that stuff could particularly happen until a second series anyway, when you know who your actor is and, you can start fine-tuning stuff for them, But yeah, I don't disagree at all. I think, if you can explore things like that, then should do, for sure.
Do you want to introduce one?
Yeah. Right, let's have a listen to our friend Aidan and his voice note.
Here we go.
Hello, it's Aidan here. I wanted to give my thoughts on the Doctor Who news that we received yesterday as of me recording this voice note. So to start with the Christmas episode being cancelled, I had a feeling it might happen due to the lack of news.
Good point.
It still, does hurt that it has been cancelled. However, with the special, as we found out from Russell, that it didn't even get written, nor a Doctor even approached to be cast, did leave a bit of a sour taste in the mouth, which did annoy me slightly. On Russell, I'm surprised that he and Bad Wolf have decided to leave. Did not see that coming, I'll be completely honest. With the show being out tender, I believe that's the correct saying. I hope, if it does come back in a few years, it comes with a fresh team with, fresh ideas, clean slate, and hopefully it will come back just as strong as we know it can be. So,
well said.
It's a shame, to sum up, it's a shame that the special's been cancelled, and it's a shame we probably won't get Doctor Who for at least another 2 to 5 years, but hopefully it comes back stronger than ever. We'll be interested to hear what you think. Thank you for listening, and see you soon.
Thank you, Aidan.
Thanks, Aidan.
There you go. Someone who's sort of roughly aligned with my take on it.
Yeah, well, he's right there. When it comes back, hopefully it comes back in a blaze of glory and it's spectacular. That's what we want to happen, what should happen. So yeah, hopefully that will be the case, even if it is a while away yet.
Let's listen to Connor. Let's see what Connor's got to say.
Hello, guys. I've re-recorded this a few times because I don't know if I'm getting a point across properly. But I suppose I feel that I'm sad. I'm sad that it's over. Doctor Who is something that's brought me closer to a lot of people, helped me make friends. And the idea that thing has gone is sad to me. I'm also sad because I think a lot of hatred and anger is being directed in the wrong places. I don't think the last, RTD2 was the pinnacle of television success. But I also don't think it was as terrible as people want to believe it was. I think we're all going to be able to just pick apart everything we can. I mean, look how people treat the Jodie era or Colin Baker's time. But I think we had a really special thing. And we have to remember that for some people, their first Doctor was Ncuti Gatwa. I am genuinely upset that Doctor Who ended on the first black LGBT actor to play the Doctor. And I am scared what that will be treated as in the future. When you look at Twitter, it's already going a certain way. And I see that. I see that in the fans, and that makes me sad. Overall, I think I'm sad, but I'm hopeful because I think the future can be bright, but the fans need to calm the F down for it to be good.
Interesting points.
Thanks, Connor. That's an interesting.
We got
point
another one
there.
from Connor. Let's see if it's a continuation or something else.
I think a lot's also being said about the arrogance of RTD and how he's the one who's ruined Doctor Who, but I think that is not fully fair. And I say this because he's not a bad writer. We can see that across all of his stuff. The fact that he brought it back and it was commercially successful under him. Something went wrong with the Disney deal. Something went wrong over that time. And I think in years to come, hopefully we will know a bit better about what happened there. I just think... I don't think Who has been healthy for a long time. And I'm going to go back to the end of Matt Smith. Since then, it's been through various states of change. The only one I think who got it kind of right in terms of doing it differently was Chibnall with the 13th Doctor. But Doctor Who in the format it's in, it doesn't suit the world that we live in now. It's not Friday night or Saturday night entertainment. It's not a family show. It needs to change and evolve. We can see that a lot of TV now is ongoing drama. It's one big story across multiple episodes. It's streaming. We have to change. And some hope for the future is that the next team that take it on do their own thing and don't try to do the original 2005 format again.
Those are all really good points.
Yeah,
from
I
Connor.
totally agree.
Thanks, Connor. I think, I agree really with you there. You feel, I've had my thoughts on the recent era, but mostly I feel sad and angry that, because of multitude of things, it's where we are where we are now. I think, you're right, Ncuti will be many people's first Doctor, and hopefully the lesson that is taken from it isn't that, the show failed with Ncuti in the lead role, therefore we only have to do a certain, we have to have Tennant again, it hopefully that's not
a big mistake there, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, let's hope that doesn't happen. I think
2005 format, which I think as Connor said, is just outdated now. Doesn't work.
He's right. A lot of shows, it's 8 episodes, one massive story. Flux worked brilliantly. To bring that back into it. 6 episodes, one big story, but each part was its own thing as well. To an extent, you could sort of watch them as a single episode. But it worked brilliantly, and I think doing something like that, or as a Keys to Time, would work brilliantly for Who. I think it's a format that would allow that variation and change that we're used to within a structure like that. I think I don't think Russell is entirely to blame. I think there's other people involved in all of this, and
people who can't question his stories, perhaps.
Yeah, people who can't say no to him. People who because it's not all down to him. Whoever's exec producing the BBC and the Disney and stuff. There should have been a better commitment made. 3 seasons. Don't cast Ncuti. He's not available for enough of it. All of these things. But Russell is a great writer. I said it earlier. But you got to not start believing your own hype, I think. So
Hubris.
yeah.
Yeah. There we
So,
go.
Well, it's late now, and we should wrap up. But thanks everyone for your voice notes and
Yes,
comments.
thank
Really
you. We love
appreciate that. So, I mean, for the future of Who Corner to Corner, we'll carry on. You know, I think
we've got stuff to look at.
You know, there is Who things to come, Circuit Breaker, various Big Finish and stuff. But you know, Paul, maybe we'll start to venture out into other things a little bit, like we did with Mando and Grogu recently. I think we'll have to. I think
we've got some good films coming up, though, haven't we?
Yeah, we have got
some
stuff. Yeah.
Marvel stuff. We've got Supergirl coming up, and I'm looking forward to those.
So I think if listeners, if you're
Spider-Man
prepared to join that journey, we'll start to vary a little bit. We haven't talked about changing the name, have we? But
we'll keep it as a brand. We'll probably keep it as it is. Maybe put a subtitle underneath it or a strapline. I'll work something creative up.
Yeah, we'll
I'm good like that. Once I've had a sleep, that is.
We'll have
I'm about to go to sleep
strong
now.
focus on Who, but we'll be tackling other things as well. So, on that note,
let us know what you'd like us to tackle. Actually, that's an idea. We'd love some suggestions.
Yeah, do if you want us to have
different
a look at
TV
a film
shows, book series, comics, films, all of that, all of the above. Let us know. What'd be really cool is if somebody asked us to watch something that we've never watched before. That would be kind of good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Someone says, right, watch this, and we think, actually, that could be. Do we really want to watch that? And then we talk about it and maybe upset them or something because we didn't like it. But maybe that's not such a good idea. Anyway, yes, sorry, I'm going on.
All right,
as Geoff said.
Thanks, everyone. Catch you next time. All right,
Bye.
Bye.